Alright guys, this video is going to talk about active transport. So the main things we need to know about active transport is that it requires energy. It's active. It's going to take a lot of energy. So I'm going to write requires energy. And so remember that energy for the cell, it's going to be ATP. Energy, ATP, that's the same thing. So active transport requires energy. It's also going to go from low to high concentration. So if you think back to, before, when we were talking about passive transport goes from high to low, but active goes from low to high. So basically, things are very spread out. And we want to put them all on the same side and make them go really close together. That's obviously hard to do. If you spray perfume and you want to get all those perfume particles back in the bottle, that's going to take a lot of energy. Alright, so active transport requires energy, and you're moving from low to high concentration. So it's basically the opposite of passive transport. There are three types of active transport. The first one is called a protein pump. We're going to come back to that one in just a second. The second one is endocytosis. And the third is exocytosis. So, with a protein pump, this is a protein that is embedded in the cell membrane. So here we have our cell membrane. Right, I'm making my phospholipid bilayer. And this protein is going to be kind of stuck in there. And these proteins only work with specific molecules. They don't, anything just can't jump in there and hitch a ride. So this molecule right here, it needs to go to the other side. Okay, it wants to go through. However, it's only going to make it to here. You guys can see it's not going to fit through there. So what is going to happen is this protein, right now the top is open. And what's going to have to happen is that top is going to close, and that's going to open up the bottom. So right now the top's open, but if we close the top, it's going to open the bottom. So really, later on down the line, it's going to look like this. And once it opens up the bottom, you can see that molecule that was stuck in there, now it can get out. However, this is different from our other protein, because if you'll remember, this protein did not have to move. This is the protein from passive transport, and our glucose molecule could just go straight through. It did not take any energy. This protein was not doing anything. This orange piece was not doing anything. This protein, on the other hand, this protein pump has to actually open and close and pump those molecules across. So in order to do that, that is going to take energy. That's why this protein pump is part of active transport. So protein pump is part of active transport. So I'll just draw a little picture. And then remember, it's going to open at the bottom. So our molecule goes in, gets stuck there. With some ATP energy, our protein will open up at the bottom and close at the top, and this molecule is now free to go on the other side. Okay, with endocytosis. So first one was protein pump, now we're on endocytosis. I want you to remember that endo means in. So endo is in, and so this is basically a cell that is going to engulf a particle or something outside of the cell. So here we have our happy little cell, but it sees this little particle that I want. So amoebas do this. This is how they get their food. So we can pretend this gray cell right here is an amoeba. And what's going to happen is it is going to, let me draw a particle again. It is going to start to reach around that particle that it wants to ingest until eventually it's going to make it all the way around. And now that particle is inside the cell, so it was ingested. Okay, so now endocytosis is a cell is going to take a particle and engulf it and bring it into the cell. Exocytosis, all right, we're on number 3. This is when something is going out of the cell. So, for example, let me switch up my colors here. Here we have another cell. And don't forget there's a cell membrane around this vesicle. And then here's some brown, I'll do brown. This is some waste material that we want to leave the cell. So what's going to happen is this vesicle right here that's in the middle, this vesicle is going to kind of merge with the cell membrane. So my vesicle is going to actually go and merge with the cell membrane. And what happens when it merges with that cell membrane, the phospholipids, if you'll remember, this gray thing is made up of phospholipids, is actually going to, the phospholipids of our vesicle is going to merge and become part of the cell membrane. So when it's kind of spits it out, it's going to just become part of that cell membrane. And so now this waste, a little brown particle, is free to go, and we just have our cell there. So let's do a quick overview. So active transport, it does require energy, which is just ATP, and it goes from low to high concentration. So anything with a lot of movement, you can think of it that way, right? If I have to move the cell and engulf a huge particle, that's going to take a lot of energy to move that cell. If I'm spitting something out, right, that cell membrane's still moving, we have to get it out, that's going to take a lot of energy. And then lastly, that protein pump, if it's pumping in and out, then that is going to also take some ATP energy. And that pretty much wraps up active transport.